Okay, jeg håber, I hyggede jer. Velkommen alle sammen i hvert fald. Og nu er han simpelthen landet. Ras, kom du bare herop. Det er Ras, der får æren. Han har prøvet det før. Nu skal han lige skrive på autografer derovre. Men skal vi ikke bare være enige om, at vi giver ham en ordentlig varm hånd, når han er klar? Skal vi klappe ham ombord? Please welcome Gary Numan.
Thank you. Thank you. Do that again.
We had organized for a cake here, and you were supposed to no, sort of a Laurel and Hardy kind of introduction. Anyway, let's get started. Welcome to Spring in Copenhagen. And you're performing here in Copenhagen tonight. And it's been quite a few years since last time you gave a concert in Denmark. So, of course, the obvious first question would be, what took you so long?
I honestly, I don't know, actually. It's, I go where people tell me there's an interest. So you know, a new album will come out and you talk to the agent and you say, who wants to see me? And yeah, Britain obviously has been very strong for a long time, obviously. But take Paris. I went to Paris once, about 25, 30, longer, 30 years ago. Never went back until this album, this tour, because no one was interested. No promoter wouldn't offer any money. Nobody cared. And so you tend to think that there's no point going there. And that was a feeling I got from here. So I'm sorry about that, but that's why I thought, you know, this is lovely. This is such a lovely surprise. And you know, the 4 shows that we've done in Scandinavia in general have all sold out really quickly, and I never expected that. I was really nervous about this, really nervous. I thought it was going to be I was. But thank you, this is lovely, thank you.
Yeah, but it is funny because, you know, people looking like myself and probably a lot of this lot, you know, we've been thinking for years, you know, we get Depeche Mode and we get OMD and we get Human League and we get Ultravox and so on, but why the fuck does Gary... Well, now we know, it's been our fault all along.
No, it's not been your fault, no. It's been my ignorance, my not understanding what's going on very well. But we are... I found out yesterday that they're going to bring us back in November for three more in Denmark, I think, at least, and some others around. So now that we know, we come back more often. Yeah.
That's very good. So what can we expect from the concert tonight? And can you tell us a little about your band and your setup?
Well, we're promoting the Savage album, so you know there'll be a lot of that. Obviously, I think we do 6 songs from Savage. We do some from the album before, Splinter, 2 or 3 from that, and then the obvious ones. You know? So we do Cars, and we do Our Friends Electric, and Metal, and other. I don't do anything from the middle. I do stuff from the beginning. And stuff from more recent years, and a bit in the... no, I like that though. I hadn't thought of that one. I've got about 400 songs, I think, something like that. A shit ton of songs, and you can do about 18 in a gig, and you know a third of them are going to be the new album. So I've got spaces for about 12 songs to draw from 300 or 400. So it's really hard. And I've got to do cars, and I've got to do half-range electric. So, the amount that you've got left to vary it gets smaller and smaller. So it's a bit tricky, really. And then everyone shouts out something like that, which I'm not doing. So, oh, fuck, forgot that one. But I tried to do songs that I think people will like from the beginning. And I tried to rotate them a little bit, but like I say, you are limited because there are certain songs that people absolutely expect. And I feel embarrassed that I'm weak enough to do them. I should be strong, artistic, and say, no, I'll do what I want. But it feels nice seeing people love something, And I think when people pay money to come and see you, although as an artist you do want to do the things that you love the most, I think there is a certain obligation to do some, at least, of what people have paid to see. And
they are good songs. It'd be a shame to leave them in the chest.
Yeah, I suppose. But something like Cars. I just done it a million times, and it's lost its sparkle a little bit. Yeah. For everyone, I think, not just me.
So, let's instead talk about your new album, Savage, then, and not dwell too much on the past. It did well in the charts, I believe, so was it a surprise for you to be back in the charts again?
Yeah, it was, yeah. It got to number 2 in Britain. Thank you. Well, it sounds quite cool, and it's lovely. But it was the first time I've been in a chart for about 35 years, so not so cool, really. But it's nice. It's nice to have been up and down and up and down and up and down. It's been a very up and down career, and it's nice to be where I am now, the age I am now, and still doing something which is forward-looking. I'm not doing nostalgia, and I'm not repeating everything that I've done before. I'm doing exactly what I want to do, and it's aggressive and heavy, and yet it gets to number 2, which is, for me, was amazing. I cried, actually, I really did, like a baby. They wanted me to go to the record.
And basically, you cried because why the fuck didn't it go to number 1?
Yeah, maybe. It's funny when people first start talking about it and you say, "Oh, it might be a top 30 album." And that's fantastic. You think, "Wow, it's amazing." And then they say it might be a top 20, and then all of a sudden, top 30 becomes not very good. and the more the expectations for it are, the more disappointed you are that it didn't quite get there. It's mental, that though, isn't it? A few years ago, to have had a top 30 album would have meant the world to me. And then you get number 2 album, and there's that slight little bit of disappointment that it didn't go to number 1. You're never satisfied. Yeah.
What kept you from number 1?
Bloody Foo Fighters.
Okay, that is rubbing it in.
And they've done a cover of Down in the Park as well. That's just really...
Ask for extra royalties. This album, Savage, was produced by Aid Fenton, whom you worked with for a number of years. How did the two of you originally meet, and how did you end up working together this closely?
He was a fan, actually, a Gary Numan fan. He used to dress up like me, wear the suit. So it's quite embarrassing. And I didn't like him for a long time. He's really, really good looking, and he knows he's really, really good looking. And I used to think he was cocky, flash, and I didn't like him. And muscles and all that shit, yeah. You're jealous as fuck, yeah. But in the course of me not liking him, I'd see him around a lot, and and he was all right, you know, once you sort of spoke to him and got through the bullshit side of it. It was underneath all that flash. He was actually really lovely, and over years we became friends, and he was a techno DJ, and he would come around my house and play me his techno stuff. I don't like it at all, you know, and I'd just say don't like that, you know, not my cup, not in a horrible way, but it's just not my thing. And then one day he came round and said that he was doing what he called proper music, which is a bit of an insult to techno, but that was his words, not mine. Doing some proper music, and it was brilliant. It was really heavy, just really powerful, but quite sort of not amateurish, but you know, not very well developed. Then over the next 6 months to a year, I saw how he learnt the skill of producing, and how these songs went from these amateurish kind of beginnings to these really brilliantly produced things. And I watched him kind of grow in front of my eyes. And so I gave him a song called Scanner, I think, way back when. And I said, well, you know, see what you do with that. And it was amazing, really, really good. And I couldn't quite believe it. I thought it might just be lucky. So I gave him another couple. Before I committed, you know. And again, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And so I can't remember the album. It might have been called Jagged. Was it? Jagged. Oh. I'm 60. I'm getting senile. I can't remember. But so he worked on that record, and it was really good. Back then, we argued more. He had his ideas about where he wanted songs to go, and I had mine, and I didn't trust him, to be truthful. You know, he would take these things off in a direction that I hadn't wanted and hadn't intended. And I produce these things myself up to a point, you know, so that it's very, very clear what I want from the song and where I see it going. And so when he would then take that and go off in a different direction, I got offended. You know, what are you doing? And so we argued a lot. And then over time, I think Savage is the fourth one that we've done together. Over time, I've learned that he really is clever, and when he takes it off in a different direction, I should just sit back and live with that for a bit, because quite often it's brilliant, you know, and it's a direction that I hadn't thought of, but works really, really well. And he's learnt, I think, that if after a couple of weeks I still say no, yeah, that's not what I want, then he'll bring it back to what I wanted. And so the arguing about that bit in the middle, that's all gone away now. So Savage was really easy in terms of our relationship, mine, his relationship. I would send him songs. He would mostly do what I wanted. Sometimes he'd go off sideways. I would just sit back and keep calm, all right, and just live with it for a bit, listen to it, for not just react the moment you hear it and it's wrong, but just live with it, you know, in a week or two, and it begins to make sense, and you see what he was thinking, and then we work on that version, and it's worked really well. So our relationship has got better and better, and our working relationship has got more intuitive and more understanding, and I think Savage is the best thing that we've done, really.
Nice.
Yeah. You were talking a bit about how you do some of the production yourself. How do you go about songwriting, and what's the recording process like?
It's not much of a process, really. I mean, I sit down at a keyboard, which has it's not a piano, but it has a piano sound on it, and I just wait to see what happens. It's as simple as that. There is no process. So, you know, the thing that amazes me is that every time you sit down there, you think of something different. You know, it's a new melody, and melody is everything. Melody is the core of everything. You know, without that, if you can take a song that you've been working on for months and strip away the hundreds and hundreds of layers that you add to it, and just end up with that piano, and it still sounds like a cool song, or you can still remember the melody, then that's it. That's the core of it. So everything starts with that, and everything else is just dressing. You know, but if you haven't got that core there, then there's nothing to dress. and to me that's everything. And when I write, I write melody, you know. And I think that's the only thing I'm good at, actually. I'm quite good at tunes. The rest of it, not so much. I've got a reputation for being a bit of a technical genius, you know. It's bollocks. Honest to God, I've got no idea. You know what's really embarrassing? You go to some of these trade shows where they've got new synthesizers being unveiled, and they will say to you, "Have a go at that." You know, oh, never. I did one a little while ago, and this man, who's a really famous synthesizer inventor, and he was talking to me about oscillators and filters and all these names, as if I knew what he was talking about. Not a clue. So, and then they want you to play it. You know, I can't play for shit.
It's funny, I was actually talking to your wife, Gemma. I was joking, you know, I would be asking you all kinds of technical issues about how to program a DX7 synthesizer, and you would hate it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nobody does.
I don't care how a sound is made. I only care what the sound is. You know, it doesn't matter to me whether it's analog or digital or this, that, or the other. I don't care about any of that. Is it a good sound? That's all that matters. And I think when people start saying, do you prefer analog or digital, they've already lost the point completely. It's got nothing to do with it, what makes a sound. And so I don't really understand what they do. I just turn them until it makes a sound that I like. And I've never really gone into the science of it or the engineering of it, whatever. What? Yeah. I don't know what they do. You know, there's a thing called I know what an envelope is. You know, I got that far. ADSR, kind of, but I've never really cared about that side of it. And this is again is where Aid's really good, because he's totally tuned into that side of things. You know, so as the years have gone by, I used to lie. I used to pretend that I knew all that stuff because I thought I should. You know, I thought I'm supposed to know all these things because I'm this electronic pioneer. And I really don't. And so now I just admit it. I don't know. But, you know. But I can write tunes, you know, and I think that's more important than knowing that.
Well, I think that probably explains why you might not have been so interested in 8 techno music, because with at least some of the techno music you don't get the tunes as much as you do in, for instance, your music and that tradition.
Yes, quite possible actually.
Yeah. Okay, some years back I did an interview with you also here in Copenhagen, and we were talking about the Replicas album. Sorry about delving into the past there. That's right. And it's dystopian themes. And back then you said that nowadays, that is nowadays back then, you found it harder to think of dark future scenarios because you had to get up early to send kids off to school. So now, of course, I'm thinking you have a new dystopian album out and one of your daughters is singing on it. That's not half bad, is it?
That's all right. It's lovely. I used to, we were talking about this earlier actually, I used to genuinely believe that I needed to be kind of in the down, miserable, really, to write. I really did think that that's the state I needed to be in to write. And it might have been true, actually, but it isn't anymore. I'm able to... The other thing that's different about now compared to then is it used to take me quite some time. You know, I would go there in the studio in the morning, and it would take me sort of well into the afternoon before I'd sort of managed to tune out the world and just tune in these things that you're trying to think about and trying to write about. And when the children came along, I had a nightmare because I couldn't. I would only... You don't have the luxury of going in the morning and staying there till midnight the way I used to. Now it's fragmented. You take the kids to school, you get a few hours, and then they're coming home, and you know your life instead of revolving around you, it revolves around them. It just does, you know, if you love your kids anyway. I do. And I found it really difficult to adapt. It's taken me years to adapt. And it's only been, I would say, with the last record, Splinter, I think then I was getting it together. And now I'm able to go into the studio and it's pretty much instant. I can just go straight into what I need to do. And I can be really productive in 2 or 3 hours, do a lot of good stuff, come out, talk to the kids, you know, have an evening with them. I don't want what I do to ever interfere with the time with them. You know, so I work when they're not around. And then they go to bed, and then I might go back out there and do a few more hours. And again, I'm able to do really good stuff within those few hours. But it's taken me a long, long time to get to that. And so I have adapted, and I now know that I don't need to be miserable to write. You know, I love my life now. I love it. I love my kids. I've been married to Gemma for 25, 26 years, a long time. All right, together then, 26. That's enough, though, isn't it? But I'm really happy. You know, the career's going well. It's just great. I mean, life is great. You know, I had loads of money troubles for a bit, and you know that's all behind me now, luckily. Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. You know, I live in Los Angeles now. You know, so it's always sunny. You know, I'm surrounded by palm trees and ocean. It's not conducive to making heavy electronic music, but I think the thing is, I've learned how to just switch it on in a way that I couldn't before. And the other thing that I've realised is that it doesn't come from where I am. My surroundings don't have any effect at all on what I write. It's all kind of in here. I've got a little black box in the corner of my head, and it all comes out of there. And it doesn't seem to matter. When I did Splinter, I did the first half of it in England, which is pretty miserable. And then I did the second half of it in Los Angeles, which is more lovely and bright, and it was all exciting and new. But you never know which songs were done in different places because it all sounds the same, because it's all from up in here. But now that my children are getting involved, it's a lovely thing. It really is. I get quite emotional again. You know, when she comes, she's been on stage with us a few times. She's not here, unfortunately, at the moment because she's gone back to school. But she's done lots of shows now with me. Festival. We did a first TV the other day, and it's so lovely, you know, to see her there doing it. And she's there on merit. Not because she's my kid, she can actually really sing. Much better than I've ever been able to sing. She's really, really good. And it's just lovely. You know, if they want to do, all three of them, if they want to do this for a living, music, then I would absolutely love that. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah. From that, let's talk a little more dystopia. That's so true, goth. The Sabbath's album, which we're talking about, also deals with a future scenario set in a world suffering the consequences of global warming. And you've said Trump winning the American election was part of the inspiration behind these dystopian ideas. Can you tell a little more about this?
Well, the ideas themselves actually come from a book that I've been writing. So they've actually been around for a while. You know, when I started to write the record, I really couldn't think of what to write about. I did one song called Bed of Thorns, which is the first song, which was really about how worried I was about making Savage because Splinter had done quite well, and I didn't think I'd be able to repeat that. So I was very anxious about that. So I started to borrow ideas from the book and convert them into songs, just to get going, you know, get something underway. Because it was part of a pledge campaign, and so people were watching, and I needed to be coming up with stuff, so I was anxious about that as well. So I had these ideas about this dystopian future based on global warming. It's not about global warming, it's just set in a time that's devastated because of global warming. And then Trump turns up, and just ignorance to a degree that you can barely comprehend, you know. Oh, a horrible human being. Anyway, so he comes in, and he's saying all this stupid shit, you know, and making everybody angry and nervous and frightened, and going to pull out the Paris Accord, which I thought was an amazing thing to have happened. You know, one of, you know, possibly the only time in the world that the entire world agreed on something. You know, I'm committed to do something together as a planet. You know, what an amazing thing that was. And then Fat Boy comes along and undoes everything. You know, it made me really angry. Anyway, so as he's doing his thing, so I'm writing these songs about a global warming future, and it made me want to do more of it. So rather than just being a couple of things that got me going, it became really important to me, and it became more and more important that the whole album, except for that first song, had some connection to that. So I just carried on borrowing ideas from the book, and the thing for me that has been really helpful and was quite interesting was I call it a book, but it's laughable really. It's not. It's just a series of thousands of ideas. It's barely a written word in terms of story. You know, it's pathetic actually. I've been on it for years. It's really frustrating me. But what I've been able to do by converting these ideas into songs, I had to sort of consolidate those ideas, actually develop them in a way that I hadn't for the book, and give them a beginning and an end and some kind of substance to them. And so what was initially was me borrowing from the book has been, because of the album, has actually gone back towards the book and has now given it a proper narrative and ideas and characters that are now more developed than they ever were before. So now what I want to do before I do another album is finish the book and get that done. Because for me it's a real big ambition, a really big ambition, and I don't know if I'm any good at it. It might be that I'm not, and if I'm not, then I won't do another one.
You can always be a musician.
Yeah, I guess so, but you know, in America, people can be everything. You know, people can be actors and singers and do all kinds of things, and it's kind of an accepted thing. In Britain, you're only allowed to be one thing. You know, if you're a singer and you try your hand at acting, everyone makes fun of you and rubbishes what you do because you're only allowed to be one thing. It's a weird thing that we British have got. And so for me, I almost feel guilty by wanting to do something else. But I do want to do something else. One of the reasons for going to America also was I wanted to get into film music, scores and so on. And I tried that. I don't think that's for me, really. It's not your own thing. You know, you write music for a film, and if someone will walk in and just say, no, that's not right, and you've got to do it all again. I'm not used to that, you know. Been my own boss my whole life, you know, my own judge. So anyway, I just thought I don't really want that anymore. I'm doing another one this year actually, but it's not really my thing. That's the point. But the writing stories, that is a really big deal to me, and I think one of the reasons I've not finished it is because I'm just really nervous. I'm nervous to finish it, and then it will be judged, and then I've got to live with that.
I have a question that I've been curious about actually since I heard, you know, on the big internet that the first single of your new album, My Name is Ruin, because it more or less reuses the synth theme from another recent song of yours, Love, Hurt, Bleed. So why is that?
Well, Ruin is a much more developed idea. The idea behind Ruin, it's actually it's become the backbone, the core of the book, if you like, and it was developed during the making of the video. Funnily enough, when my daughter Persia came along and took part in that, and the idea of it really started to become more obvious to me, more definite to me. The idea behind it is Ruin is this man who has an interesting history that you don't know about to begin with his wife and daughter, and there this group called the Righteous, who are these mad kind of religious people that are trying to tell everybody the way they should live their lives, and not like real life at all. And they come along and they kill the wife and they leave the man for dead, and they take the daughter, and they to sort of enlighten her to the ways of the Lord and all that shit, which is why she's got the cross on her forehead. And then he survives, and then he goes searching for her, and in the course of looking for her, he becomes ever more vicious and brutal and savage, relentless, and he would do absolutely anything to anyone until he finds where she is to get her back again. And so that's really what the song is about, and because of that, that is now going to be probably what the book is about in a much more developed function. But it was just a series of lucky things that happened. You know, the fact that Persia sang in a record wasn't my intention. She came home from school and just said hello, you know. And I'd been working on that song all day, and I tried to sing the bits that Persia sings in it, and it didn't sound right with me. It didn't work at all, and I was really frustrated with it. I had these ideas, and it should have worked, you know, and it didn't. And she come in and said hello. And I thought, you know. So I got her to sing it, and it was fantastic. It was exactly what it needed. And then I thought no more of it. And then the record company decided to choose that song for the single, so we make a video for it, which a friend of mine made for us from a band called IMX, actually a really good band. And then we said, well, we should have Persia in it. You know, she sings on it. And so she goes along, and I think Chris had the idea to put the white cross in her face. I hadn't even thought of that. And so I thought, oh, hang on, it all starts to make sense because of what it's about. And before you know it, that then becomes this much, much bigger idea. And that's what I mean before, but now it's feeding back into the book. So the whole album, even down to the clothing that I wore, anything, was just something that just, each bit led to the next bit. It wasn't this great big, well thought out plan to start with. It was nothing at all. It was scratching around for ideas, stealing ideas from a book that I was supposedly writing. And then as one idea came together, you think of something else, you know, and it just fell into place. And that's one of the reasons I'm so happy with it, because it was just it had its own journey. You know, it wasn't this sort of well-conceived thing that I was managed to put together. It just kind of kept on coming. I mean, all the clothing, Gemma found the clothing. She took, what did you type in? Arab warrior, futurist, apocalyptic future, whatever. Google. Brilliant.
I know some live role players, so next time you just write me. It's just down the alley.
Oh, really?
Well, actually, no, what I was thinking more in specific terms. The synthesizer, the main synthesizer riff, the theme, ba 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 ba. That one you use on Love, Hurt, Bleed, also the same theme. Yeah. The same melody. Is there a reason behind that?
Well, it's a slightly different melody, but it's the same sound. It's a sound called Buzzard. Yeah. From there's a bit of software called Omnisphere, made by a company in America called Spectrasonics. It's an amazing bit of software. Anyone that makes music or is interested in making music, if you buy this software package called Omnisphere, it's pretty much like an entire career in a box. You know, it's just anything you could ever want. It can do it. So it's you know, my biggest recommendation to anyone that wants to get into music is just buy Omnisphere, because it is phenomenal. And it's not just that it's got amazing sounds in it, which is a good starting point, but the way that you can manipulate those sounds and the way that you can add external sounds into those sounds and just continue to create things that are actually your own, that are individual and unique to you, is incredibly intuitive and easy to do. And whereas before you might come up with an idea and it could take you an hour, 2 hours or more to be able to get the technology together to see if that idea would work. With something like Omnisphere, it's literally seconds. You can and find out if it works or not. So it makes the whole process really fast and really exciting. And I've probably forgotten more ideas than I've ever had because of how long it takes them to be realised. You know, it's one of the downsides of electronic music, I suppose. You know, a guitar is more instant. You know, it works or it doesn't. With sound, it takes longer, really. But with Omnisphere, they just seem to have found a way of making it much faster. And so the excitement level, when you're working on an idea and you're really keen on it, and you really want to see how it works and integrate that with the song that you're working on, with something like that, it makes a huge difference. You really are able to explore the idea fully. Everything sinks in, and know whether it works or whether it doesn't work very, very quickly. And so you stay up all the time. You don't get bogged down in wires and shit and all that, which you used to before. So it sounds like a cop-out, you know, that it's got all these sounds in it, but it really isn't. Because, like I say, they really are just somewhere to start. And you go on from there and you take them into other places. But it's so easy to work with. It's just brilliant. I love it.
So, over the years you have collaborated with various music legends such as Afrika Bambaataa, Trent Reznor, Jean-Michel Jarre. Did you get to know these people on a personal level as well? And do you like musical collaborations?
I find them a bit scary, really. I'm not particularly confident. I've always thought of myself as lucky, really, rather than talented. I just haven't thought of myself that way. And so when you work with other people that are very good at what they do, that my initial reaction is to be nervous about that and feel that you're worried about the contribution that you're going to make, whether it will live up to how good they are. And
you're Gary Numan, for God's sake.
oh yeah. Yeah, I know, but you can't. I don't want to feel differently. Actually, I don't. I like not being cocky. I like not feeling that I'm God's gift to music. I know a lot of people that do think that. You know, I know a lot of musicians, obviously, and the ones that I dislike the most are the ones that think they're so fucking brilliant all the time. You know, I find them really boring, them people. You know, we're not brilliant. We're not. You're only as good as your last album, and as good as your next album. I really believe that. You know, I think we have to keep earning our position or our reputation. You know, I don't think because I wrote something 40 years ago that I deserve to still be known now. You know, you have to keep doing it again and again and again. And I think my insecurities and my anxiety, if you like, about not being good enough, which I still have to this day. I'm still nervous.
Don't write you off.
Pardon?
You just proved that don't write you off.
Well, it makes you work harder. If you're nervous about what you do, if the things that you do you don't automatically think are great just because you did it, then you analyse everything. You just work harder. It's common for me. There's a song on the last album called Here in the Black. I must have written 7 or 8 or more choruses for that. Just could not believe that was the one I'd just done was as good as it could be. It must be able to be better than that. So you do another one, and you do another one, and you do another one, and you just keep on. And quite often you come right back to the first one again, you know, because you can't find anything better. But it's that insecurity that keeps driving you. You never settle for the first thing that you do, because it probably isn't good enough. You just keep wanting to do more and more and more. And I think, in some respect, I think part of the reason that I still find this exciting and challenging is because I'm still absolutely convinced that I can be better than I am. You know, and that I should be. I should be better than I am. But the first band that I really, really loved when I got into electronic music was Ultravox, when John Foxx was the singer, because I love John Foxx, and they to me were the blueprint. They were doing what I wanted to do, in that it was merging electronic music with conventional music, guitar, bass, drums. But they were doing it so brilliantly that I never thought I got close to them. I never did. And I've never thought I have. You know, all the people that I like, I've never been as good as them, in my opinion, ever. And so you always feel as if you're lesser than the people that you admire. And I wish I didn't feel like that sometimes, you know, because it can be a bit depressing. But, you know, in general, I think that's a good way to be. It makes me, it stops me being big-headed for a start. You know, I'm pretty grounded and down to earth sort of person, and it makes you work really hard. You know, when I make an album, I really work on it, and I really worry, and I'm really anxious all the time. You know, and I can be very difficult to live with, as I'm sure she would agree with. She calls me preoc, you know, for preoccupied, you know, because my head's somewhere else all the time. Because I'm worried. You know, I'm not sitting there thinking, how brilliant am I? You know, fucking what a great album. Number 2 for sure. You know. But I don't think like that. You know, so when things happen, like the number 2, you know, when that happens, for me, it's such an amazing thing, because I don't have those expectations, and it's absolutely lovely. It means the world to me.
So, speaking of these insecurities, in recent years, you've been quite outspoken about your Asperger syndrome, and you've also said that you feel you benefit from it musically. Can you elaborate a little on that?
Well, I think I always get embarrassed about this, because I don't ever, you know, think that I should speak on behalf of Asperger's. So I can only speak for me and how it affects me. It gives me, and I believe that this is a common trait in Asperger's, it gives me a degree of focus which is considered to be obsessive. So absolutely, that's where I'm going. There. Yeah, and there isn't anything in the world that swerves you from that. And I think that's a very useful thing in this business, to not be swayed by opinion or fashion or any of that. You know what you want to do, and that's where you're going. Emotionally, I am able to. I can have a bad review or whatever, and I'm able to. I'll be bothered for about 10 minutes. Yeah, and then I'm able to just wrap it up and just move it to one side and stick it over there and just move on. I can compartmentalise emotion, again, which is sometimes upsetting, apparently. I don't react well to emotion. If anyone's got a problem, I don't come to me, because I don't know what to do. I really don't. It's horrible. It's horrible to live with, I think, because I don't understand it. I don't know how to react, and I do it in a really weird way. Apparently, you know, we had a cat that died, and Gemma's really upset. She's opposite to me completely, and I thought the best thing to do would be to make a joke to make her feel better. Yeah, you know, that was the wrong thing to do, but I don't know that. I know it now because I've been told loudly that I shouldn't have done that. You know, but it's that complete lack of understanding of emotion and what other people are feeling and what they need that I've never had, and I don't get it, and so it frightens me. If I see a friend of mine getting upset, I do my best to get out of the way before they notice that I'm there. Not because I'm horrible, and not because I don't care about them, but I'm terrified I'm going to say the wrong thing, or do the wrong thing, or behave in the wrong way, and it really bothers me a lot. And now with the children, I'm terrified of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. So there are downsides to it, you know, but the good side of it is reviews don't care, you know. So that's what I mean. That there is a price to pay for having it. But it is not a disability. It is not a handicap at all. It just means that you think differently. You relate to the world differently, and you can sort of learn up to a point that the things that you're not good at and get better at them, like what to do when a cat dies and things like that. Now I know I just have to hug, apparently. So I'm good now, aren't I? Just hug a lot. That's what you do. Luckily I can't hear you. But it's useful. I find it very useful. It gives me that focus and that drive and that ability to shrug off setbacks and disappointments. I'm a driven person, to a ridiculous degree, and that comes, I believe, from Asperger's. And the downside of it is I don't interact very well with people.
Actually, on that note, I have some questions from the big internet and people who have somehow managed to reach me through that, and now I will be the medium. And so, actually, one of them is a musician of mine who has Asperger's herself, and she asked, "How do you cope with meeting so many new people during tours without getting stressed?"
How do I cope with meeting people?
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is that this situation is somewhat unique. I'm here talking about me. Well, that's easy actually for an Asperger's person. You talk about me all day. It's not a problem. If I was to meet anyone in here, including you actually probably, outside, not in this environment, not in this situation, I would really struggle with that. I would probably have 2 or 3 minutes, and then I run out of things to say, and I don't know what to do next. And I've really tried to learn about this, because I mean, Gemma is the opposite. She can talk to anyone forever about anything, all day long. Just. I mean, it's a lovely thing. It's just a brilliant thing, and I'm so jealous of it. And I listen to her all the time. I'm like her shadow. We go out as a couple all the time. We're never apart. And I've really tried to learn how she does it. How you can be so warm, and just everyone loves it. And I it's just brilliant. But I can't do it. I really can't do it. I don't have the gift of that. But in these situations, or in an interview situation, it's a completely different thing. You ask me questions, I talk about me. No problem. Yeah.
Do you think this might have been also one of the reasons why you became a musician? It was easier to communicate from stage.
It is possible. I'm not sure I thought about it in those terms back when I was starting. I think when I first got interested in music, it was a teenage boy, shallow thing. You look at pop stars and they've got money and girls like them. So that you got that teenage boy kind of. That sounds great, doesn't it? But then as you get older and as you get actually more into music itself, then you begin to see, obviously a completely different world to that. And I don't know though. I really don't. I think there's possibly some truth in that. That I don't relate to people very well, but there's still things you feel that how would you get them out other than writing them down if you don't talk to people? And I've often thought of songwriting as a need rather than a desire. You need it. It's my way of getting things out. I got diagnosed with depression a few years ago, and I was on medication for that for about 3 years, I think it was. And being able to write about that experience, I did an album called Splinter, which was about that. And I feel that was a really, really important part of me getting through it, and getting through it unscathed. I don't talk to people. I talk to Gemma, but that's about it. But being able to write it down, and I think in the course of writing something, because you want it to say exactly what you feel, you think about it very deeply, and you write some things down, and they're not quite right, till you think about it some more. And I think that process is much the same as therapy in a way, because you are talking it out. You're understanding what happened to you so that you can write about it. And that's just the same as, or much the same as talking to someone in an office or a doctor's surgery. You know, so for me it was incredibly important for that particular period. But I think it's always been important. It's always been my way of getting things out, because although I'm talking a lot now, I don't, generally speaking, you know, I'm really introverted.
So, another question from the internet, let's delve from, you know, going introverted to death. We recently lost Margie Smith of The Fall, and today is his birthday. He interviewed you in 1997 in connection with your Exile album and The Fall's Levitate album. Do you remember, and what do you think of his work?
I'm ashamed to say I don't know much about his work. I never really listened to The Fall that much. I did meet him for that, like a joint interview that we did. And it started really well. He was very charming and very lovely and very interesting. But he kept saying the same thing again and again about me, which is very flattering, you know. But he kept saying it again and again. And after a while, it's difficult to react in the same way. You know, go, thanks, Mark. What a love. Thank you, man. That was so nice. Really, you know, after 20 minutes of that, you're going, I know, Mark, you've said, you know, thanks very much, you know. And then after about half an hour, you're going, Mark, you've said that about 20 times, man, you know. And then he started getting a bit weird. And then he got weirder, and then he started to get slightly aggressive.
He might have been drunk.
Almost certainly. But I don't know for sure. He didn't seem drunk, actually, but maybe. And so I got scared, and I ran away. He frightened me. I made an excuse. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Very nice of you to say that again. But I'm just going to go to the toilet. I did. I made an excuse to go to the toilet, and I ran and went away.
Okay, so, Gary, when this is over, will you tell me, Russ, I have to go to the toilet, just so I can say, well, yeah, me and Margie Smith.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, another question. You were talking about soundtracks and maybe getting into that. So one of the questions here, do you have a favorite film soundtrack? And if so, what is your favorite?
Gladiator, for me. I love the music to Gladiator. I really love it. I love... pardon? Was it? I thought it was Hans Zimmer. Yeah, it was Hans Zimmer. Yeah. I hope it was.
No, he did Alexander. Yeah, it's all this Greek stuff. Vangelis, Alexander, Gladiator. Yeah.
Well, whoever did it, that's my favourite. I love that one.
En off simplement. So, another question. This is maybe if you feel like it, this is where you can run for the toilet, because Torben Jelsbak wants to know: did Bowie steal from you, or was it the other way around?
Well, he never stole from me because I'm so much younger than he was. But I didn't intentionally steal from him, to be honest. That was never my intention. The electronic music that I did, I don't think was like what he did. You know, he did the B-side of Low and things like that, which I loved very, very much. But what I did wasn't like that. The people that I was trying to emulate was Ultravox. You know, and I said that right back then. Yeah, and I've said it my whole career. I was a big David Bowie fan up until about 79. Scary Monsters, I think that was the one for me. That yeah. And then from then on, I never really liked it after that. It's probably just it's an unfortunate coincidence, you know, when I come along. But I worship the ground he stood on up until then, you know. But I never truly understood the big comparison thing, other than what
this.
Yeah, but
it was the makeup thing, wasn't it? Basically.
Really? Yeah. Simple as that.
You know, rock critics are simple-minded people.
You know, there were about 20 or 30 other bands in the 70s that were all doing makeup. You know, it doesn't seem that big a thing to me. You know, I couldn't. Anyway, you know, whatever. I didn't see it. I was trying to sound like Ultravox. Not sound like Ultravox. I was trying to do what Ultravox were doing. You know, the electronic thing for me. I mean, I'd heard things like Kraftwerk and what Bowie had done with electronic music and Eno and all these people. And it had never been, as much as I'd liked it, it had never excited me enough that I wanted to do it. I didn't. When I went to a studio to do my first album, I was still in a punk band. We were a three-piece punk band. And you know, you probably know the story, but you know, I get to the studio and there's a mini Moog in the corner, and I've never seen a real one before, and I had a go with it, and I just thought it sounded amazing. But it made noises I hadn't heard before. I hadn't heard Bowie do that. I hadn't heard Kraftwerk do that. Not because I'd done it. It was already set up on those sounds. You know, it wasn't anything I did. But that excited me, and that was the first time I'd ever heard anything electronic that I thought really, really excited by it, until I just went for it, and I became an electronic act overnight. But up until that moment, I hadn't heard anything electronic that had been so exciting to me that I wanted to do it. Having got into it and made my own album, I then started to look around and find who else is doing it, and that's when I found Ultravox, and that's when I realised that they were much further ahead than I was, you know, and it was very impressive, and I listened to that thousands of times and tried to learn from it and how they did it, went to see them all the time. I was a massive fan of them. So that's the one. You know, if anyone wants to say who did you copy, then look at Ultravox, because that's what I was listening to. It wasn't Bowie. It wasn't. I loved him, but it wasn't, musically, it wasn't what I was doing.
And actually, I'm told we have just a couple of questions left. No, we have no more. So I'm going to visit the bathroom.
Thank you.
Tak til Gary Numan. Thank you. Photo session.
you.